I think the most successful television executive right now is widely considered to be this man who has been on the stages before with us, and he's got a lot to say, and he's very good at saying it. So without further ado, Les Moonves. That's a good question. I'm just looking at the slide talking about how people are still watching television.
People are still watching television, thank God, and you know, our numbers are very good, and the good news is they're able to watch it in all sorts of different ways.
All right, so got it. All right, so I want to start with that idea. So you really are, I mean, like getting from the Jurassic Park thing, you are like the T-Rex of this area, okay?
Thank you. That's a nice compliment, I think. Right.
But are we at a situation where the asteroid's about to hit?
No, I don't feel that. Actually, if you look at how we count our viewership now, you know, with the DVR and the VOD and all the sorts of current programming, the shows that are on the air now, we are being watched by more people than were watching us 10 years ago. So I think a lot of that is because of measurement. A lot of it is because of devices, obviously. A lot of it's because of mobile. But we don't feel like we're the dinosaur. We don't feel like we are behind the times. We have advanced what we do.
Meaning watching in other places.
Meaning watching in other places. I mean,
but let's talk just about broadcast television.
Okay.
Because you can sort of have it two ways. Broadcast is having these issues, but everyone's watching everywhere else. Let's talk about just pure broadcast.
Okay.
How do you look at the broadcast?
All right, broadcast, by the way, 70% or more of our audience still watches in the time period where the show is.
Right.
So it's not dying per se.
Right. 70%.
70% are watching
some version of
the
CSI.
Big Bang Theory at 8 o'clock on Thursday night.
Yeah.
You know, the other 30% are watching it elsewhere, obviously. That's a pretty impressive number. That's still, you know, 20 million people. That's 20 million people who are watching it on Thursday night at 8 o'clock. Now, is that number getting less? Absolutely. Are people cutting their cords or not signing up for cords, and the millennials are watching in different ways? You won't see a television set on a college campus. But the good news is, I think we have got out in front of it where we're making it available in a lot of different ways.
All right, so what is the demographics of that 70% that is watching? Because and I'm quite old, but I do not watch linear television. I do not watch broadcast television anymore in any way.
I know, but a lot of people still do.
Right.
You know,
who is that? Who is that person?
Who is that? It is anybody from 18. Obviously, as you get older, the percentage of people watching in the normal linear fashion becomes higher, and younger people are watching it in different ways.
Right.
But Jonah, who earlier said, oh, there are 200 million people per month using BuzzFeed and they don't watch television, that's not true. They're watching a lot of television. The average person in America is watching television 5 hours a day. I know that sounds like a terrible statistic.
It is a terrible statistic.
You know, but not for me, it's not.
Okay.
Right.
But where do you imagine I want to separate the broadcast and watching on all kinds of different ways, devices, on phones and stuff. And we'll get to that. How do you judge the broadcast network business away from the fact that you're doing well in it as a business? Where is it going? Down, up?
No, our profitability has gone up for the last 36 quarters in a row. And the other, look, the broadcast networks are all owned by bigger companies, where CBS is actually the smallest owner of a major broadcast network.
Yes.
But the broadcast...
You're a real indie, Les.
What?
Go ahead.
We're not an indie, but compared to Disney or to Comcast, we're a little guy. We're a tiny little company. The broadcast business is doing terrifically well. People are watching it. CPMs are going up every single year.
Okay, but viewership down.
Viewership down, but there's been an amazing change in that the back end is becoming now more important than the front end. By that I mean viewership is going down slightly, per se. Advertising is going up, but the ability to sell the programs in an afterlife because of Netflix and Amazon and the huge international market has gone up. So it is now more important to own more of the programs that we're airing, and we're making more money that way.
That way, through selling through other means.
Correct.
How do you look at the Amazons and the Netflix of the world? A lot of the broadcast networks have been hostile to them, and now they're a customer.
We haven't. They're a friend and a competitor. They're a friend. They pay us hundreds of millions of dollars a year for our content. A lot of it, they buy I Love Lucy and Star Trek from us. They also buy some of the more newer shows. Yes, at the same time, they're producing House of Cards, which is terrific, and Orange is the New Black, which is terrific, and they're competing with Showtime, a CBS property. But that's okay. That's okay. You know what? They're another competitor in the pay cable service. But as I said, they're paying me hundreds of millions of dollars a year for my content. My life is much better with Netflix in it than without it.
So do they become more of a content competitor to you? Do you see them doing that, or are these marquee shows that they're making?
Obviously producing a lot more original content, as is everybody. And one of the issues of the day is there are so many more shows and so many more choices that content does get watered down. Creative talent, there's just so much of it. However, you know, once again, when House of Cards came out, and it was a massive hit, and I said to Ted Sarandos, it's not that easy. You hit a grand slam home run in your first time at bat.
Right.
It's not so easy, and they've seen that it's not so easy, being that they probably haven't had another House of Cards since.
Orange and the New Black.
Orange and the New Black is a big hit, absolutely.
So
but there've been a lot of misses there.
Kimmy Schmidt is pretty popular among.
We don't know. They don't give us numbers.
Okay. But they are. But culturally, they're quite.
Absolutely.
Does that make you jealous that they're having these shows that are popular?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
You know what? We have. You know, we've been the #1 network in terms of viewership for 12 of the last 13 years. Nobody makes me jealous.
How do you, when you go to Hollywood, when they? Oh, I bet I can find somebody. When you look at those shows, when they do get a lot of the cultural buzz and stuff, which is what you want to create too, like all shows, when you're saying there's a limited amount of creative content, do the creators want to move there? Do they feel, every time you interview, we had Chelsea Handler recently and stuff like that, they all are like, I'm so glad to be gone from the network. It's almost, you know, it's like complaints about the cable company. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? Do you feel like just the creative people are like, oh, now we have new people to shake down?
No, look, there are a lot of phenomenal programs. I think on Showtime, we have shows that have cultural buzz. I would say 3 years ago, Homeland was probably the most buzzy show on television. The Good Wife, to me, is the best show on network television. And for every Chelsea Handler that doesn't want to be on network television, I got Stephen Colbert who does. I think I've won.
Right, but how do you manage that now? How do you manage that?
I'm just saying, you know, how do you manage that? It's still, look, David Letterman just ended a phenomenal run. I think he had a major
I think we
effect.
called you the man who used to employ David Letterman.
What?
At one point. I think I called you the man who used to employ David Letterman.
Exactly right, until 3 days ago. Now I don't employ him anymore. But you know, there's still a major cultural effect. 120 million people still watch the Super Bowl every year on broadcast television. It still has a very significant place in American culture. Once again, everything that's going on online and with digital and with Netflix.
What I'm trying to get at is what you have to do differently with talent now, because you've got to be more attractive to them. You've got to say, you've got to offer. Is there something that you have to do differently? If you have Amazon making a great show like Transparent, and the creative people are attracted to that. They are attracted.
There's no question. They also like the time. They only have to do 10 or 12 episodes. If they agree to do a CBS show, you have to do 22 episodes. That's what the economic model is. However, there's something, you know, if you're interested in a back end, in other words, in becoming as rich as some of the people do on network, you don't quite get that economic advantage. Look, this is the golden age of television. And by that I mean creatively. There are so many great places that are doing shows, but that also includes networks.
Do you have to do anything differently to attract talent?
No. Look, we've been attracting talent the same way for basically a number of years. Yes, is it more competitive? Yes, are there people looking for shorter schedules and things that they can do on cable or online that they couldn't do content-wise on network television? But there's still a lot of people who like coming. Look who you're having dinner with tonight. Empire, Network.
Exactly.
Network, big hit.
Right. I want to find out why how they managed to do that and what they changed. They use social quite a bit. They are very buzzy. They have a very different tone now.
No, that's become a major part of launching television shows, and buzz and social networking is important.
So let's talk about the other ways to get your content. Now you sell it to Netflix, you sell it to Amazon.
Right.
You like doing this, you get lots of money for it.
Right.
What about your own delivery? Talk a little bit about your over-the-top thing.
Well,
now, HBO, how do you think their launch went, the HBO?
They went extraordinarily well.
All right.
And I've actually heard some numbers, which I won't reveal, but they have done better than they expected. The numbers are pretty terrific for them. And our numbers with CBS All Access, our over-the-top offering, also have been
Can
terrific.
you give me those numbers since the Netflix is terrible about giving them?
No, as I said, I will start giving those numbers when Netflix tells you how many people are really watching.
It's contingent? I have to get both of you to?
No. We're not going to say, because then it's judged in the universe of 4,000 million hits per second.
Right.
In that universe, which we're very pleased with All Access. There are a lot of people signing up for it. It's beyond what our expectations
Do you expect it to be a big moneymaker, that people will that's the way they access it?
No question.
No question.
No question it'll be a big moneymaker.
And where do people watch those shows?
Well,
where are you seeing?
A lot of it is on mobile. A lot is on mobile. There's a big difference, and mobile has changed the world. Our internet group, 4 years ago, 7% of the content was gotten by mobile. Now it's up to 60%. So mobile's become very important. College campuses, obviously, people are watching on iPads and devices like that.
And do you imagine that these millennials will pay for this? If they have, the jokes are about stealing HBO, of course, but.
Yeah, but yes, they will pay for it. They will pay for it. Look, Showtime's, HBO did an over-the-top. Showtime is planning a similar launch sometime this summer or the beginning of the year, towards the fall. And we think it's going to be wildly successful, because in that model, to get Showtime and HBO, you first need to get your basic cable package, then check the box for HBO, pay another $15, then check the box for Showtime. Yeah. Now you can go right to Showtime, and there's a lot of people who want that.
How does that affect your relation with cable operators? Where do you imagine? Do you imagine that not being the most important way you get customers?
Once again, we will go through the existing operators to share that partnership. It's an ecosystem that has worked well for them. It's worked well for us, but the world is changing. The bundle is changing.
What do you need them for?
What?
If you could sell it yourself directly,
well, you know what? There is an ability to sell many channels, and they're directly into the home, which we are not right now. In addition, we don't want to cut them out of the process. They've been good partners for a long time. There will be a day, undoubtedly, where there's a direct-to-consumer offering, which you can now get with CBS, All Access. You won't be able to get that with Showtime or with HBO. It'll be through our existing partners.
At any time?
At any time.
All right. So when you think about yourself, do you think of yourself as a broadcast network anymore? Or do you want a new name for yourself?
You know what? We're programmers. Are we broadcast? Yes. We're still broadcast. A lot of people still get us in the old-fashioned way.
That's sort of like saying people can print out recode stories. We're not a print publication.
Right, exactly.
But do you imagine yourself a broadcast network? What is that?
We are different, and the idea, we used to be called old media. We're not old media. We're video. We're media per se.
Right.
So the term broadcaster doesn't mean anything anymore. You can get CBS the same way you can get FX or ESPN. Most people get it that way. 90% of the people get it through cable or satellite or television.
Well, speaking of broadcast, Periscope.
Yes.
You had some issues with that.
Well, we had some issues on the fight. We were the distributor of Pacquiao Mayweather, along with HBO,
for which you charged.
Which we charged about $100.
Okay.
A home for. It was the biggest boxing event of the decade, certainly. And although the fight may not have lived up to the expectations of that, it was a pricey event, and 4.4 million homes signed up for it. And, there were people who put it on Periscope, and, many. Well, how do you know how many?
Well, I saw a lot of them. I saw a lot of them.
I know, there were a lot of them, but once again, Dick is a decent guy. He wrote me a nice letter saying that wasn't what the intent of Periscope is.
What Dick wrote was... Victory for Periscope.
What? No, he first wrote that. Okay. That's what he wrote on Twitter.
Right.
Okay. And then when he thought about it.
Right.
When he thought about it.
So how did he think about it? Did we have a Les Moonves phone call?
He wrote a note, and we have arranged for a meeting. I like Dick. We have a very nice relationship. And Twitter and CBS will coexist very happily in the future. I don't think the intent of Periscope is piracy.
Right.
When that was the end result, I genuinely believe that was not the intent of what Periscope is.
Right.
Or then you're talking about Aereo.
Right. So why isn't it Aereo?
Why isn't it Aereo? Because the intent of it is not for piracy. I don't believe that.
The intent meaning they're going to try to take those.
Well, you know, Aereo was trying to take our broadcast signal and deliver it for $12.95, of which they would keep our content. They would keep the money from our content. That's not what Periscope is designed to do.
So how do you imagine if that thing keeps happening? What if someone starts broadcasting The Good Wife?
By the way, it is rarely, you know, if they want to do Good Wife, okay, that'll be a minor amount. Good Wife is over the air and it's advertising.
All right, a Showtime show.
A Showtime show, that would be illegal. That would be illegal, and we would try to prevent that.
So what do you do?
Piracy is not a good thing.
No, is this YouTube all over again, these issues you all had with YouTube and everything else, but this is even sort of worse because it's real broadcasting.
We didn't have a huge issue with YouTube.
Well, you know? the idea of piracy, of people putting of your content being hijacked and put up.
Streaming and digital is going to be is a fact of life, and we are very supportive, and we are on board, and we're putting our content up there all the time. And by and large, the universe of digital is fair and honest, and they want to do the appropriate thing. So are there going to be thieves out there? Of course. The Big Bang Theory is the #1 show in China, American show. Warner Brothers and CBS doesn't make a penny. Right. You know, it's what exists out there. I don't think that's the intent of what Periscope is.
What do you need from Twitter when you go to this lunch? And where are you having lunch?
What?
Where are you having?
No, I'm not telling you. You show up.
With my Periscope.
Right.
With the Periscope. But it's an interesting phenomenon because I was at a dinner with Ryan Seacrest and I started periscoping him and he didn't realize what I was doing at first. Right. And of course he's like, hey, and he goes, what are you doing? And I go, I'm periscoping. He goes, I'm not ready for television. I'm like, too bad, you're on. Like, and there's 5,000, 10,000. No, now there's 20,000 people watching. And the minute that happened, he's like, well, hello, Brazil. You know, he immediately got the idea of it. But what do you need from Twitter? What do you need him to tell you?
Twitter is what do I need from Twitter in general or regarding Periscope?
To tell you.
Look, there will be instances, and the fight is an unusual instance. If people use Periscope, basically, to show our programming over the air, as long as we could count it, we're okay with that. Because by and large, our programming is advertising.
What about your paid?
Right. My paid, I would have a problem with that. What do
you need to hear from companies like Twitter?
Well, that they will try to prevent that as best they can. And by and large, that has happened. You know, when YouTube sees something that's illegal up there, they will take it down. They will attempt to take it down. And look, we are not on different sides of this issue. We really aren't. As the traditional broadcaster, what is happening in the digital world is a major positive. We have embraced it as much as any media company in the world. And what's happening in this world is great. Our interactive group is doing some phenomenal things up there, and I think we're as far advanced in that as anybody.
To two more topics. One is we're going to end with your company. What's going to happen to CBS eventually? But first, Letterman Apple TV.
Okay.
Are you going to do a deal with them?
Probably.
And what will it take?
Money.
Okay, all right. How much?
No, how much? Apple TV is trying to change the universe a bit, as did Sling. Right. As does Sony. Sony's trying to put out an offering. And I think the age of the 200-channel universe is slowly dying. I think the average home has somewhere between 150 and 200 channels, and they're watching somewhere between 14 and 17 of these channels regularly. And what Apple will offer and what some of the other offerings are a more select group for a lower price. Right. The good news for us is any one of those groups will need CBS. Right. We have the NFL, which is must-have television. We have shows that people like. We will have more that people like. So in any one of those bundles, we will be a part of that. Right. And we should get a better proportionate share of that universe than we currently do in cable. So we look at Apple TV, and once again, I don't know when they're going to launch or how they're going to launch.
Do you have any idea when they're going to launch?
I don't.
You don't?
I don't. I don't.
And do you have a sense of when you're going to sign with them? Is it just an ongoing
No,
negotiation?
it's an ongoing conversation, negotiation. I met with Eddie Q last week to continue those conversations. We're very excited about it. I think Apple has proven they're pretty darn successful.
They're a
with
proven
navigating.
company? Yes, they are.
Well.
They could buy CBS,
no,
for example.
They could.
Yes,
They could.
yeah.
Bring it on.
Okay, all right.
That's as a major shareholder, that sounds very attractive to me.
Yes, okay.
Depends what the price is, but
All right,
they have a lot of money hanging around.
They seem to be rather valuable.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. So
do you have an Apple Watch?
I do.
Is it?
I do.
Do you like it?
I'm just getting used to it.
Really?
I didn't. Somebody said, "Did you just put it on for this conference to look hip?" And I said, "No.
Okay.
I've had it."
Yeah.
No, I am using it. My wife uses it extensively,
Do you
and I'm
think
getting
people will
used to
watch CBS on that?
it. I hope not.
Okay, all right. Okay.
You know, it's going to be really hard to see, The Good Wife
Yeah, that's
on
true.
that watch. but-
Let's talk about the future of CBS.
Okay.
You have an owner that is older,
A controlling
a
shareholder.
controlling shareholder
Right.
that is older.
Yes?
Do you want to be reunited again with Viacom? I can't imagine you do.
No, I don't. They don't want to be reunited with us, and we don't want to be reunited with them. We're in very different businesses. The combination of those two companies would be of no advantage to either company.
Have you been trying to sell CBS?
No.
Not to
Not at
Time
all.
Warner, not to others?
No, we've tried to buy Time Warner.
Right, right.
I'm only kidding. That
Okay.
was Rupert.
Okay, all right, okay.
We, you know what? We're very happy who we are, what we are.
But what do you imagine would happen? Do you imagine you'll have to be sold at some point?
No, I don't imagine that will happen. The board of directors will decide the fate of this company.
Yes, but I think
in the
you are
future.
probably part of that fate. Or you want to
I am-
control that
Well,
fate.
I've been at CBS for 20 years
Right.
now, and
you-
I'm an important part of it. I would like
Would
to
you want to
think.
buy CBS?
Would I want to buy CBS? I would buy CBS. CBS is a phenomenal company.
Are you going to try to buy CBS?
I am not going to try to buy CBS.
Okay, but you would like
CBS is a public company. There is a controlling shareholder.
Right.
It will remain a public company. I'm convinced of that.
Okay. Last question on David Letterman.
Yes.
Fascinatingly, I watched almost all the clips online. I did not watch the final show. A lot of people did. It got a lot of viewership.
It did.
People talk about network television news being an anachronism. Are late shows that? Because a lot of people now watch them in pieces. I don't think I watch late shows anymore.
I think, look, online pieces and clips have become very prevalent in them. They still get an increasing audience. There are a lot of them now. You're not old enough to remember. There was only Johnny Carson.
I
Now
remember.
I know you did. I was being kind.
Okay, thank you.
Now there are a lot of them on, and I think it's a phenomenal group of guys on.
All right.
I think Kimmel's
Yeah.
great. I think Fallon's great. I think Jon Stewart's great. We're very happy we have Colbert replacing Letterman. Yes, people are watching online, but the key is to get paid for it. We have a new guy at 12:30 named James Corden, who is getting a lot more attention because his bits are going viral, and people are learning who this guy is, and that's going to be part of the equation.
So you
and
don't
that's
see
great.
that as a dying business, or it just?
No, I think it's an increasing business as long as, once again, we get paid for those clips.
Okay.
And that's going to happen.
Last question is, how do you use digital media? What is your usage of it? You have the Apple Watch that you will not be watching The Good Wife on.
Right.
What else? do you do?
I have the Apple Watch. You know what? I'm on my iPad often, and I'm constantly looking at news sites, sports sites, entertainment sites. I don't use Twitter.
Because you'd be good on Twitter.
Because my people won't let me go on it. They're
Right.
afraid of what I might say.
Yeah.
And
It would be like Rupert Murdoch too.
I think that's
yeah.
probably wise
yeah.
that I don't go on there. But
Okay.
I have a number of apps that I go on to, but mostly, as I said, news and sports.
How do you look at companies like Snapchat and others? Is that a place for you to get people watching? What do you think of the Discover feature?
You know what? I think we do premium cable. Anything that can help us increase what we do is a good thing. So all these sites, we're trying to see how they're complementary to us. We're trying to work with them. We don't want to make enemies. We want to make friends.
Okay. And when you look around at the media landscape, do you see consolidation between online, offline, the AOL Verizon deal? What do you think is happening?
You know what? Obviously, the distribution companies are coming together, and Charter and Time Warner is going to happen, and AT&T and Direct are coming. I don't see the content companies needing to combine. I really don't. In certain instances, like in your company, it's a good idea to become part of a bigger company.
I'm glad you approved.
Right.
I was going to call you, but then I didn't. I'm sorry. Okay.
You're tough. You know, I don't see the need for that.
And what about you buying digital companies? You famously bought CNET, others. How do you feel
We did
about
bought CNET, and that was a great acquisition, and we look at a bunch of other things, and Jim Lanzone, who heads our interactive group, is doing a terrific job. So we have inspected and looked at a number of places. There's nothing we've jumped into recently.
Is there something you think you need, add technology?
Not really. Right now, as I said, we feel pretty complete.
All right, great. Questions from the audience for Les Moonves? Up, please. There oh, is that a question? Questions? Any questions? All right, I'll keep going if you don't mind. So when you look at companies like Google, Facebook, are they important to you? Are they?
Clearly they are. Clearly there is, as I said, there's partnerships available with all of them that can help our major business. My main question with all of them is, what is their opinion of content? Because at our core, that's what we are. We're a content producing company.
Right.
So what do we have in common with them? Are they producing content? Are there things we can do together with them to enhance us or them? And that's what we look at.
And how do you judge them when you look at Facebook, for example? Do you consider them a content distributor now?
Yes. They seem to be more interested in content than Google is. For instance, Google has shown no propensity to want to get involved with more content or with us in that matter. Obviously, Amazon has wanted to be in a big way. Yahoo hired Katie Couric. They're trying to do all sorts of things.
What did you think of that? I mean, she was on your...
By the way,
she's on every network, yeah.
Yes, she's been on NBC, CBS, ABC, and now Yahoo. And Marissa thinks that's an important part of what they're doing.
What do you actually think of that effort?
I have no idea. You know, obviously there are a lot of people using Yahoo. How effective that is, I truly have no idea. I have no idea.
And do you imagine ever doing that with your network anchors or something like that when you look at your network news shows?
Well, we now have CBSN, which is up and running and doing extremely well. And on breaking stories, our network anchors do. We have, if you go on CBSN, all our people are on there. They're on there. So it's sort of interchangeable. It's one studio away. And
do you ever imagine a day when that is where your principal business is? And are you going to be, do you imagine it being the most important thing where it's not where the television is?
It could be, but having said that, once again, at 6:30 at night, 25 million people are still watching the 3 network news broadcasts.
Right.
Not much difference than what it was a decade ago, so it's still significant. Do I see CBSN growing to a point where it becomes the predominant place where CBS News is given out? It's very possible. It's very possible.
I mean, although that's like saying, you know, people are reading a lot of newspapers, but I don't feel like newspaper stocks are what people are rushing towards.
We called CBSN the cable bypass, basically, which is a 24-hour online news channel, which we're very pleased with. And once again, it's utilizing there's an invisible line between CBS News and CBSN.
Great. 2 questions here and here, very quickly.
What do you see in the decline of the 30% of the audience that is, or increase rather, in the 30% overall that are watching on non-television? And where does that go? And in particular, what happens to the large chunk of your business is still in broadcasting and owning the stations? Where do they go?
Yeah, the 30% are watching it, but they're just watching it not on time on our air when we're scheduling it. So they may be doing it on DVR, you know, on Saturday and Sunday, catching up on all their TV shows. But there are 10 million homes that are cord nevers that don't have it, that will be hopefully watching CBS All Access and paying $6 a month for CBS content. We're seeing a great growth of that. And once again, that 70% number is going to be reduced. It's going to be going down to 50, but they are going to be watching and we are going to be paid for it. So frankly, the fact that the overall numbers are up in a decade is a good thing for us. In terms of the owned and operated stations, which we own 40% of the country worth, it's still a very viable business. It's still a business where We depend on the 200 some odd affiliates out there in America that are providing local news and local shows that are important for the local communities and important politically. It's important for the government that localism have a place. And we believe in that system. The system is working. And once again, as we advance and get paid retrans, so are they. And as we talk to Apple, we may be talking for the entire country worth and then pay our affiliates from that basic sub rate that we'll be getting from Apple. So we want to keep the system going. We believe in it. It's very successful. But once again, like everything else, it's adapting. It's very different than it was 10 years ago, the affiliate system.
Last question, quick.
Thank you.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on Charter's offer to acquire Time Warner and the chances of it passing regulatory.
And what did you think of the Time Warner Comcast?
Look, the Time Warner Comcast thing, we sort of stayed in the background, being that Comcast owned NBC, one of our major competitors. I had some trepidation about them having that sort of power in the marketplace.
You weren't vocal about
what?
it. You weren't vocal.
No, we you know what? It's business and let it happen, and
Right.
we sort of stayed in the background on that. I think all of us sort of knew if Time Warner Comcast fell apart, that Charter would soon be there, that Charter would be right behind it. They had been the one negotiating initially. This didn't surprise me that this happened, and it happened quickly. I don't think they will face the same regulatory problems. The concentration of them with Comcast was much greater than it is now, especially in broadband. I think if it would have happened with Comcast, they would have controlled 60% of the broadband. Now it's less than half of that with Charter. So I expect this deal to happen.
Were you glad the Comcast merger didn't go through?
No comment.
Okay. On that note,
Right.
thanks so much.
Thank you.